hope everyone's good. I hope everyone's had a decent weekend. We've got a little bit to crack through this morning, so I want to just get on with it this morning, if I'm honest, and just get through what we have going on and what we need to cover. From a fundamental standpoint and from a data standpoint this week, quiet start to the week, if I'm honest. Not loads going on. Tuesday morning we have Royal Bank of Australia Governor Lowe speaking. That's probably going to cause a few tiny waves, but there's nothing really to kind of keep an eye on. Tuesday afternoon sees US dollar CPI data. So we start to get an understanding of inflation figures out of the US. That in itself could well be a turning point and could see the positivity that the US dollar needs to start strengthening up that currency, because obviously over the last couple of weeks that hasn't been the best runner, taken a bit of a beating. Wednesday we have pound and CAD CPI figures and New Zealand GDP. So Wednesday's without doubt the biggest day of the week. It's a bit of a monster, if I'm honest. So we do need to be extremely mindful of that. Also then, I think Thursday we have Aussie employment figures and then US dollar retail sales. That kind of like caps what's likely to be quite a busy week for us. So beginning of the week, a little bit slow and tentative, a bit of a filling out process, but as we get into the week, we should start to see some movements. We just need to be mindful of those high impact data announcements. Aussie dollar is where I want to start from a currency point of view. I just want to pull that up because that's not actually my stop loss. My stop loss is currently sitting at 70. So yeah, we'll run through and see what we've got going on. Aussie dollar is where I want to start because this is a position that I was triggered into early this morning. Triggered in at the 40 level, so around about 5:30, 6 o'clock this morning as we saw this new swing low come into play. Running down and breaking the lows. Currently have stop loss at swing high. If obviously we break above the previous swing high, the short is not where we want to be focusing. The reason for this, we'll come out to the 4-hour time frame and just take a little look through here. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that we have been trending over the last couple of weeks back to the upside, and there is obviously a very real possibility that we see a fire back up above 74.20. I don't want to be involved in the pair and all the way to there. I do, however, want to be involved if we do break above that 20 level. However, obviously, as we come through daily levels, we can see that we've now tested quite a significant area of support through this region. In fact, we can just pull this down. I don't think it's necessary to be where it is there. Let me just come all the way. Try and make this as comprehensive as possible. Just going to come into those highs. So we fired back into a previous area of significant support. That's kept us above that area. Now started to break through. We've come back and retested that last week. And then obviously we've started to see the push away from that. That could be construed as a potential lower high, that lower swing. Looking for that drive back to the downside. If that were to happen, then that is likely to come and start to really pick up steam around about 73.20. The pending order that I had set in was an order below the consolidation here. Looking to catch the potential movement. It was one that was set last week and then it was triggered early this morning. Anywhere in and around here, if we can start to reject, start to see pushes back to the downside, coming to the 15, you can see the area of breakout. come back and retesting that area of previous support at the moment. Absolutely to be expected. Coming to the 5-minute time frame, you can see again this area that we broke out from. So it's nothing more than just coming to retest the potential consolidation that we had previously and significant levels. So as long as we can stay below these levels, have zero problems with being involved in the short at the moment. For those not in the short or those that want to get involved, 73.20 is that level. So getting below 73.20, back down to 72.50 initially. Just come out into the 4-hour time frames. Shows it a little bit better. You can start to see previously over to the left here the previous resistance that we had through this 72.50 zone. Previous resistance. So we will look to take profit at that point at the first instance, and then obviously look to trade from there. The chances are that once we get through 73.20, we push quite quickly and quite sharply down into around about 72.20 as an overall, and then see quite a significant run back to the upside as well. So taking our profit at that 50 level just ensures that we're coming out of this in the best possible way. So yeah, Aussie dollar, one to keep an eye on. Obviously not the best thing at the moment, currently sitting around about 20 pips down, but have every faith of that coming back to the downside. Euro yen last week looked lovely with this almost double bar formation. It's really the daily that's most appealing though, with the breaks looking back to coming down to the downside. You're kind of looking at a run as things stand as a bare minimum, looking into kind of around about 28.80, somewhere around the previous lows that we have seen. So as that stands, obviously we want to look for potential entry opportunities, and around this region at 29.60 looks the best place to get involved. That should give us a run back down quite comfortably. So if we can get through this 29.60 region, then a run into kind of 27 looks quite probable, or at least 28.60. So we've got 100 pip options, we've got potential options here. We're just entering some consolidation. We've also got this head and shoulders pattern that is coming into formation, solidifying that 29.60. So solidifying 29.60 as that potential area to get below. So with those points and those factors, obviously getting below that region is obviously massively important to us at the moment. In fact, let's just pop that in there now. So it is important for us to get below this region, but once we're through, should see those potential pullbacks come into play. Euro Swiss is another pair that I want to go through. Come out to the, not the 4 hours. Come out to the weekly, see last week's close with that shooting star formation. Come into the daily, can see that engulfing on Friday's close, and this morning. So this morning will be very much an area to come and find some potential resistance that could well come in. Just come to the 4 hours, it's a little bit clearer to see it. That could well start to come in around about 108.70, 108.60, somewhere in and around this region. Would make a lot of sense for us to potentially see some resistance come into play. Let's just highlight that region. So if we start to see sell-offs from here, we've got that lower low, the potential for that lower high, and then obviously we would probably likely start to set sights on targets. For the initial, I would definitely be looking for a return back to 107.50, and then obviously potentials to run and break into the lows after that. As things stand at the moment, though, obviously rejection away from this region would signify the potential for downside. The only thing to be mindful is obviously we can see here at 108.40 where we've got the potential resistance zone, the previous resistance zones, that is currently starting to act as support. So getting below those levels is obviously going to be significant for us. And may pose a few potential challenges on the way. Nothing, I don't think, that will end up leaving us into looking into this position. And I certainly don't see the run back to the upside occurring anytime soon, especially not without fundamental help. And that's just not really going to be there for the euro this week. So we will keep an eye for potential rejections from where we are currently. And definitely for potential breaks back below the previous lows. I am just going to set an alert at 0830, and that should be enough to get through. The other one that I wanted to look at is euro pound as well. Again, you come out to the weekly, we've had this rejection for the last couple of weeks. So anything giving us some form of that rejection at the moment is likely to give us some form of downside movement back down towards kind of the lows at 84.50 at the very least. So if we come into the 4-hour time frame, having a look around about 85.60 makes a lot of sense. The potential there for a drive back to the upside, and then obviously the potential push away from that region, or obviously getting involved somewhere around the lows at 85. And I'm just going to put an alert in there. Would make a lot of sense. I know that we're about 30-40 pips away from that at the moment, but that will give us that highest probability move. You can see already the support region that we would then have broken, giving us that run down into 84.50 as a bare minimum. And then obviously from there we can set our sights further afield, but somewhere down towards 84, and then obviously the lows at 83.30 make all the sense in the world. So I want to have a quick look as well while we're on the euros at euro dollar. Again, another pair that I'm involved in at the moment, just sitting a couple of pips in profit, probably taking into account spread somewhere around about 2 or 3 pips up. But again, we've started to reject away from 119 this month already. That's huge for the pair. The weekly doesn't give the best kind of picture, but we do start to see that solid selling pressure coming back into the currency. Daily time frame, the failure to break above the highs is massive, and we're now back through 118, and 118 is a huge level for the pair. So as long as we can stay below 118, we are in a good place. We can potentially look for drives back down into the previous lows. I'm not going to do that actually. I was just going to copy and paste that one, but I'm not. So we can certainly look for runs down into 117.50 and the previous lows of this consolidation that you can see here. But the more likely scenario is that we run into the lows altogether at 117 or around 116.80 if we get potential spikes. But somewhere in and around this region and this support area would make an awful lot of sense for this pair to pull back to eventually. So like I say, we're below 118 now. If we can stay there, then we will be in a very good place. Just depends how much strength wants to come in early in the week, whether or not we drive back towards kind of 18.20, and then we have a few decisions to make surrounding whether or not we stay involved in that pair for the time being. New Zealand dollar, we're still very much trapped inside of this consolidation too. So anything below 70.80 is probably going to lead to potential trades to the downside. Trading that breakout pushes back into kind of 69.50 and or 70. 69.80, 70, the whole number. Somewhere around those kind of areas of previous support, those little consolidation zones is probably highly likely to see. CAD Yen. CAD Yen I'm not involved in at the moment, but I'm certainly looking for entries after last week's engulfing candle and obviously the short bias that we took into last week. We took a few positions out of it. So again, we're just looking to get back through the lows. We want to break previous lows 86.30 really, and that should give us that run down at least into 85.40. If we can see that run into 85.40, we should be pretty clear. And then obviously we'll look for the potential breaks from there. Obviously, last week we had CAD rate decisions and policy statements to contend with. There's not really anything going on from a CAD point of view again fundamentally this week. A few little kind of minor things, but nothing that should cause the boat to tip apart from obviously like the CPI figures on Wednesday. So even that, unless they're huge figures, shouldn't be too bad. So I would definitely, as I say, be looking to hold the short bias for the pair somewhere around about 86.40 and breaking through those previous lows. So that's CAD Yen covered. What else? There was one more on my list, and obviously this list is subject to change depending how we see price acting this week. Sorry, I'm gonna have to just very quickly break this chart down as I don't have an Aussie Swiss chart marked up for some reason. Just going to come through, find our significant levels on the monthly time frames. Come and have a look at the weekly. I'm going to stick one through here. And then just check the daily. We've got some significant ladders coming into play there and there. So we've got our support regions and we're fine there. Cool. Let me just come in and tidy these charts up because as they stand at the moment, that is hideous. Grab that. Just going to come in. I'm going to move this one down a little bit just into that region. These levels are all more relevant to us as things currently stand, so that is why they are differing ever so slightly to what we picked out on the monthly time frame there. I do just want to pop that in through there, I think. So we have our significant areas there. And let's just come into the 30-minute time frame or into the lower time frames. I just want to see where we could potentially find short entries if they're going to come into play to look into the potential entries that we have on other pairs. Dollar Swiss I want to look at as well, actually. Where are we going to get an entry from if we're coming to the upside? Because we've got to start I would wait for 78.20 to go, and then I would just look for the run up to 79, and then from there, that's the way I'm going to play this, I think. So above 78.20 0.6825. 0.6825. Look for the bounce break above 68.25. Looking for that run up to 69 would be the way that I would play this as things stand. I don't really like it. I want to see also the downside. It's counterproductive though, but I do see Euro Swiss selling off, and I do see Pound Swiss selling off also, actually. I do just want to pop an alert in through the lows of here, just for that break of the consolidation back to the downside. I just can't see how the Aussie dollar continues the strength that it's been seeing. I like Aussie Swiss. It's just not going to play out as things stood at the moment. Dollar Swiss, we've broken back above. We're breaking 92.20, and that's been the key area that I've been waiting to see it taken out. Let me just alert that again. 92.20 goes on dollar Swiss, and I would definitely be looking for, in fact, I'm going to pull that up to 35. I know that gives 10 pips, but take the highs out. You've got that run up into 93.80 to look for. So I fancy dollar Swiss to the upside. I think it looks really good. The lower time frames look lovely for it also. Seeing this new swing come into play. So as long as we don't break back below 92, we are pretty much odds on to break the highs at 92.35, and then obviously we'll see where we go from there. Higher high, higher low. Potential for a higher high there would be nice, and then just be mindful for potential pullbacks to create a higher low around 92. That's definitely potentially on the cards for us also. I like dollar Swiss. I like dollar Swiss to the upside, but I like every other Swiss pair to the downside. I also quite like, say, euro dollar and Aussie dollars both to the downside also, but I just don't know how they're going to come about or how they're going to play out at the moment. But yeah, there's a few things to keep an eye on. Watch it back. As I say, we've got a few things to keep an eye on over the weekly time span more than anything. But definitely keep an eye on dollar pairs, certainly coming into the CPI data that we have on Tuesday afternoon for the US. And then obviously keep an eye further afield for potential data in other pairs too. Doesn't look as good as I wanted it to. So yeah, I hope everyone has a decent day. I hope everyone's good, and I will catch up with people as and when I can. Got a few things to crack on with this morning, and then like I say, I will endeavour to catch up with those that I need to catch up with. But I have a decent